Hello and welcome to another episode of Indie Pokemon Decks. I am going to apologize for the lack of videos in the last few days. I just had I had a really bad allergic reaction last week, and I didn't think you'd want to hear someone sniffling and coughing and wheezing throughout a video, so I didn't record. And I had time on Monday and Tuesday to do it, but Monday something came up, and on Tuesday I was like, alright, I'm gonna do it. I sat down and my computer decided to update and do it's one of those, like, this is gonna take several minutes and several reboots, and I waited like 2 hours and it just never happened, and my window closed. So I do apologize, but the good news is I have a deck. I've got what I think a pretty good deck. Oh, and even worse, I did record this. I actually recorded this deck once before, but I did it before the standard rotation went in effect, and I had in a card that was illegal. So I have a video sitting there. It's like, yeah, this deck's totally legal, and it was illegal. So I had to change the deck up a little bit. Yeah, I had Puzzle of Time in here. I don't know what I was thinking. But I want to talk about, this is a mill deck. So if you're here, if you caught on to me because I like doing mill decks, stall decks. Actually, it's a stall deck. Well, it's both. If you caught on to me because you like those kind of decks, and you know those decks are like, you know, either you love them or you hate them, or maybe you tolerate them. Maybe, I don't know. But it seems to be that you love these decks or you hate them. I'm going back to that. I'm going back to the throwback here. And I know. Before you shut off that video, this is what I want to say. If you're saying mill decks have no chance, mill decks, they'll never win in a tournament. Hello. In the World Championship, Takuya Yoneda, on day 2, I think he finished overall 22nd with a mill deck, Zoroark Hammers. They called it Zoroark Glade, but it was a Zoroark Hammers. The Glade really, you know, I watched. He actually appeared on the live stream, and I forgot. I think he beat like a Baby Buzz deck, yeah, he just totally dominated. And I don't think he had the Glade until late in the game. So it was just all Zoroark Hammers. It was Puzzle of Time, and he had some really good stuff there. So I've had this deck for a while, and seeing that made me like, oh, I gotta check this out. And I just, I was like, this deck is good. This is a good deck. I'm not gonna kid you. The downside to this deck is these games take a long time. So that is the downside of this deck. But this is a mill deck. It's not really a mill deck because it's a stall deck. Well, I guess it is a mill deck. So a mill deck is when you're actively trying to have your opponent discard cards into their discard pile. So you could think of like Durant, Houndoom, Bunnelby. And I'm kind of sad because in this new meta, there are like no mill cards. I think there's... I forgot what it's called. There's like 1 or 2, and they're awful. So I'm kind of upset that milling has been totally ignored. Team Rocket Handiwork went away. Team Flare Grunt went away. So a lot of cards you would use are gone, but this still works. And so I have it's more of a wall stall deck, but there are some elements of milling and there are some elements of disruption, and we'll go over that. So the wall aspect is our Pokemon Hoopa with his Scoundrel Guard. He cannot be attacked by GX or EX if you're playing Standard. Really, all that matters is GX. Heracross, who, if he gets knocked out, flip a coin, and he's not knocked out. So, hooray, no prize getting. So that's your wall. So you want to build your wall first. And then you want to disrupt, and you're going to disrupt with hammers, crushing hammers, and if they have... special energy, enhanced hammers. You can stall with Counter Catcher. Put a inactive, incapacitated active Pokemon, a Pokemon they can't attack with, as their so you could use as their active, so they can attack. So Counter Catchers, Guzma fills that role. Oh, I have down here. I have Team Skull Grunt, which will discard energy from their hand. So it's more energy denial. Plumeria, which will discard energy from a Pokemon in play if you discard 2 cards. So we have a mill element, we have a wall element, we have a disruption element with getting rid of energy. Oh, and then we have a, well, I guess disruption also, tormenting spray. I put a single one in here. Choose a random card for your opponent's hand. If it's a supporter, discard it. It almost never works, but when it does, it's great. Something to play around with. So that is the disruption factor. And then the secret sauce of this deck, putting them all back in play. And that is where Florges comes in. Florges is wondrous gift. Flip a coin. If heads, put an item card from your discard pile back on top of your deck. So in essence, if you get 2 of these out per turn, you could put 1 item card back. So you can, every turn, play a Crushing Hammer. Every turn, maybe play Tormenting Spray. Every turn, play Pal Pad so you can get stuff like Plumeria or Team Skull Grunt back in your hand. And that's the idea, to keep putting these cards back. Or Counter Catcher. You know what? They've Guzma, that utility Pokemon they have on their bench, out of the active spot. Well, now you're putting them right back. That Oranguru, now they got to find 2 energy to put on, or a Float Stone, or whatever it is, to get them out of there, and you can just keep putting it back. So those are the 3 components: the wall component, the disruption component, and the recycle component. And there's another aspect too. Diantha, whatever. We'll call her D. So D, if your fairy Pokemon gets knocked out, you put 2 cards from your discard pile into your hand. Yeah. So we have a recycle element. So we have these things. Pal Pad also recycles, supporters in. So if you need that Team Flare Grunt. And then, I'm sorry, I missed one element of this deck. Mars. And this is an important one. It is and it isn't. This is the one that's like you just... It's like the humming in the background that eventually you can't stand, and you turn around like, can you just stop humming? Like that noise in the background. So draw 2 cards. If you do, discard a random card from your opponent's hand. I've not really been on the other side of Mars that often, so I don't know how it feels, but from my end it feels like, again, anything else. If your opponent gets down to 2 or 3 cards and they're planning on playing something, they have a supporter, a Cynthia, the next turn, and you play Mars and you get that Cynthia out, I feel like it's worked with this deck, because I feel like I've gotten supporters out. So that's like the home run aspect of Mars, like getting that card they really need out of their hand, but also it slowly whittles away. Even if you get an energy out, that's 1 energy less. If it's a Float Stone, if it's whatever it is, a Guzma, I've had that. I've gotten Guzma with this. Whatever it is, you're slowly whittling away their deck, and you're recycling your cards back in. Now, I'm turning my finger like you can see it. No, here, I can turn the mouse. You're recycling your cards back in while they're losing it, and that's what gives you the edge to allow to mill, to win. So you're basically stalling them out, hoping they're going to deck out, and when they do, hooray, you win. So that is the basic premise of this deck. It works pretty well. The 3 components: the walling, the disruption, and the recycling. So, there's some decks, of course, that are going to have a better time against us than others. If it's a non-GX, then Hoopa becomes useless, and Heracross is like your main guy, and you have to use Rescue Stretcher to get back in, and if Rescue Stretcher's prize, well, you have Gladion to get it out, but yada, 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 yada. You get the point. Sometimes your Pokemon gets knocked out before you can get the rare candy and set it all up. But ultimately, when it's up and running and your opponent doesn't have the ability to, do multiple things, they have to get energy on their Pokemon, they have to find a Pokemon they can attack. So if they have GX, they have to either use a non-GX or try to knock out one of the other Pokemon on the bench. If it's Heracross, they may have trouble. There's a lot that your opponent has to do. And if you're playing something like, Zoroark, they're already thinning out their deck. I know losing Sycamore hurts me, because my opponent isn't willingly thinning out their deck as much. But it does work, so let's go to the first game. Alright, here we go. I was thinking I won the coin flip. It just says I have the advantage. So, in actually playing this deck, you want to go second. So no. And the reason why is because you can evolve your what is it, Flabébés into from basic to stage 1. So you want to do that your first turn. And the cool thing is I don't have to be scared about getting rid of these cards because I can get them all back in. As long as Pal Pad's not stuck here, but then I can use Gladion to get it out as long as both Gladion, etc., etc. You get it. You get the picture. Alolan Ninetales and Empoleon. Alright, so not a great deck for me to face, but let's see. You know, if we can get the energy off the board. Yes, I will take an extra card. Alright. So Empoleon here. So I don't have anything to necessarily stop Empoleon, but we will see. We will see. This deck fares a lot better against GX decks, and most of the decks out there are GX decks, so. Of course, you know, another weakness is opponents that can hit your bench. So I thought of putting like I know there's that stadium that prevents bench damage, or like a Mr. Mime in here. Ooh, so close. I almost want to play the Mars turn 1, and I might still, just to see if I can get that rare candy in my hand. So I almost want a Heracross, but let's hope I don't get knocked out first turn. Let's see if I can. Alright, so I got a Flabébé. Alright, so I have 2. I could sacrifice 1 if I need to. I wish I could hold the Diantha in my hand, because if he knocks out this guy, you know what? I think with the Counter Catcher and the Cynthia, I'm okay, and I can get her back. Usually those knockouts don't happen till later in the game. I'd love to put a Heracross in my deck, but I can't. I mean, on my bench right now, because I'm going to be using him. So I'm 1 turn away from evolving. Let's see what's in here. Also a good idea. I've got 3. Oh, I've only got 1 Heracross. So let's see if I have a Gladion to 1 Oranguru. 4 hammers, that's good. Pal Pad, good. 2 Gladion. Okay. 2 Plumeria. 2 Skull Grunts. 3 Mars, because I played 1. Alright, that's fine. Alright, so if this guy gets knocked out, I can hold off my opponent. The problem is I don't really have a great way to get opponent mine. Ooh. Alright, GX, great. Alright, so my opponent does have GX, but this guy can snipe my bench, so I'm a bit worried here. Let's see, let's look at Retreat Cross. That's important here. Cynthia, good, so you won't be playing a Guzma here. Alright, so he's setting up his Pokemon. See what he's pulling and what he's thinking here, because this guy will wreck my bench, and I do not want him. Interesting. See, now it would be good to play at Mars. I've done that where opponents done that a turn early, and personally I don't like doing that. Ooh, I'm going to do it this way, because then it's easier to evolve this guy later. Do I want to put anything out of my deck now? No. Let's play Cynthia. But yeah, it's good. I knocked a Lele out of their hand, and they were kind of stuck for a little bit. Alright, so we have a hammer here. I want this. Let's get this 1 energy off the board. Great. Let's see if we can get it back in our deck. Except I'd like it to be on top, so let's get the Heracross out. The only one. We have this Rescue Stretcher here. Alright. Pal Pad, do I want to take... I mean, I could put D back and Mars. I can get this back later. Let's not do that yet. I may need that later for like a Guzma or something. But again, I can use Florges to get it back in my deck, so I'm not that worried. Rescue Stretcher is great. If my opponent does knock out Florges, I can Rescue Stretcher back right in my hand. So usually, I play like a... I think it's a 4-3-4 line here. And so I'm not too worried about them getting knocked out as much. Okay, that's interesting. So yeah, so I guess they're planning on, they're scared of this Hoopa. I don't want this Ninetales getting anywhere near me. Let's see, what's my opponent going to play? Is it going to be a Guzma here? Because that was interesting. They put a Lele in their hand. They had a lot of cards. No, Cynthia. Okay, so they didn't have a draw card. That was the reason for it. One other thing I should point out when you're playing this deck, you have to, once you're in the groove, once you have everything, you have to play it quick. Because you are going to lose on time if you don't. I had one guy milk me to the last second. He had no chance of winning, but he tried to milk the clock. He would take long times on his turn, short times, trying to see if it would slow me down. And basically at the end, I was just hitting the done button. I wasn't even going because I knew my opponent didn't have anything. Alright, Beacon again. So let's see what Pokemon my opponent's looking to get. Both Empoleons. Both retreat cost of 2, so that's good for me. Bad that this guy's here, but I feel okay with the Heracross. Ooh, decision. Do I want to use... See, if I use Gladion and I see Florges there, I'm going to want to take it out, but I need the Heracross. Let's see. Can I get... If I get this off... Yep. That's fine. So next turn I'll get a hammer, so I'm not too worried. I do want the other Hera. So let's just grab it out of here. Ooh, a Guzma there too. See, I want to take all that. I almost want to put like 4 of these in my deck. Because then I could really pick out of here the cards I want. But unfortunately, this is fine. Alright, so maybe he's going to use a Guzma for Florges here. Maybe my opponent has a Guzma. Could lose his Florges next turn, but then Hera will go in the active spot. I can Stretcher them all back in my deck. Ooh, that is interesting. Yeah, there's Guzma. What is his retreat cost? Alright, so trouble already. But maybe not. I'm gonna Rescue Stretcher. Should I just put all 3 back in my deck? No. Let's see this. No, let's just get 1 in our hand. I could get this, and with it I could get the Rescue Stretcher back. And I can make another one too, so let's get him right back. Oh, and I only really just use a Flabébé, so that's all I've lost, technically. I'll try to get that hammer back in my hand. Well, it's not going to be in my hand. It'll be top of my deck, but that's good. I'm fine with that. I may need that Rescue Stretcher at some point, but in the beginning, you want to concentrate on the energy. See, a Mars would be great here. Look, only 2 cards, right? So if I had a Mars, I would have totally played it. Ah, Counter Catcher. So he can't put a Float Stone on this guy. And there's no reason to play this Field Blower. The other cool thing you'll find is that your hand grows pretty big. So you don't really need the Oranguru. And you're not going to get end. See, now I want Mars. Yeah, let's get rid of that energy. So it's good. And I find my opponent will start to, slow down and take their time, which is good for me because it gives me time to get the hammers back and get, it's not a high probability of these hammers working. I really want to get another Florges going, so I'm fine with running Cynthia again. My opponent's down to 26 cards. I'm at 29. This is great. Plumeria, perfect. Yeah, I'm okay here. And they have no energy on the table. They probably don't have any in their hands. There's no point in playing Team Flare Grunt. Yep, well, now we'll play some Mars. And the cool thing is Mars has this nice synergy with Florges, right? Flip a coin. Get a card. I almost want the Nest Ball. Am I being greedy? Counter Catcher, Nest Ball, or play it safe? Let's get a little aggressive here. Actually, the Nest Ball was dumb. I shouldn't have done that. I should have done the Rescue Stretcher or something, because it's likely I'm going to get another Nest Ball. Ooh. Well, now I want the rare candy. All right, so Flabébé. Oh, a double coal is gone. That's great. Wow, I can't believe my opponent didn't play it, but obviously waiting until they have all their cards in their hand. And yeah, that's fine with me. That was nice. I almost want to play Team Skull Grunt now. What are they holding? But it's better to play after they've played like a Cynthia or something. They put some more cards in their hand. Alright, and it's good to hold these hammers. Like, I'm fine with my hand expanding as well. Yes! Yes, I'm taking that because that rare candy will give me him. And I don't have a Mars, but I'm just going to wait. We'll just wait a turn. And I'll have 2 Florges now, and now I'm going to get double the return. Oh. Alright, we got to find a... I have an Order Pal in this deck. I don't know. I don't remember what my prizes were. Oh, here we go. Florges is going to be active? Yep. Okay. I have Tate and Liza to bring her back. Oh, that hurt. That hurt. Oh, so mean. Alright, well, Counter Catcher again. So 2 Guzma gone. Oh, now that rare candy's making me sad. Alright, let's... I'm going to try Crushing Hammer, and if I don't get it, I'm going to Plumeria that card out. Yep, alright, we got it. And let's... I don't want this in the active. I'm fine with wasting this card here. Yep. There you go. Ooh, I almost forgot. Alright, so you see my time. I'm a 3-minute difference. Now I want Rescue Stretcher. I want to get those 2 Flabébés back in my deck. Actually, I could put one in my hand straight, but I don't know. I could play... What I would do is maybe play it, put on my bench, and then Team Skull Grunt and make sure my opponent doesn't have any energy. Now, I'm going to do that. I'll put it right in my hand. And then... So now he's got to have a Guzma and that. So if he's going to keep picking on this guy... Let's see. No. No, alright, so he should be safe for next turn. Ooh. See, you see my opponent has the ability to retreat. So it's good I'm picking on this guy. So sometimes, you know, you shouldn't play all your cards. And sometimes you do that to get him out of your hand and get him out of your deck. But, again, with the mill deck, that helps me, right? Now he can't retreat with this guy. And I know he's got that in his hand, in his deck. Here we go. Now I want to Pal Pad that these cards back in my deck. See, he's going after my fairies. So, let's get... Ooh, I do want a Mars. Let's get those back. Ooh, look at this. And I can even take more cards back. What do I have here? Counter Catcher, yes. And then next one on the hammer, if I get it. So it's kind of tricky. You don't know if I'm getting, you know, which one you're getting next. So I have not seen my Enhanced Hammer yet. Oh, this is perfect. So if I just wait, those 2 cards are going to appear in my hand. My deck doesn't get shuffled. If I want it shuffled, I can just play that. So that's a nice little trick there. You know, if all of a sudden I desperately know I don't need those cards, I just play Brooklet Hill, shuffles my deck. But look, I have so much energy removal. Plumeria, hammers. Yep. And let's get another Counter Catcher. Rescue Stretcher. I think another Counter Catcher will do. Alright. So now I think I got to speed things up a little bit. There's nothing in my deck I really want back. Maybe Rescue Stretcher after I get this counter thing, and then I'll shuffle my deck. Maybe Pal Pad. Get those Mars back in there. Oh, all right. So my opponent, very good, very good. That's interesting. But he's gonna retreat here. Oh, that's interesting. Get it out of his hand, I guess. Yep, getting those cards out of his hand in his deck, and that's actually a smart play. I have plenty of ways to get rid of energy here, depending on what happens. Oh, that's a good card. I like this card a lot. 1 in your hand or 3 back in your deck. That is a very good card. Oh, 3 back in his deck, of course. That makes sense. So. Alright, nothing to play here. I'm going to try to get Pal Pad back, and then if I'm lucky, Rescue Stretcher. 1, 2 people. I mean, I probably won't be using Rescue Stretcher. Whoa! And folks, that's sometimes what happens when you're playing a mill deck. Your opponent will just quit on you. Other times they'll give you the angry face like over and over again, and those are the best wins. But yeah, you can see the power of this, that once you get that lock in, it's kind of hard to defeat. There are ways around it. There are decks that this is weak to, obviously. But you can see the strength of this deck. You know, you build the wall, you start disrupting, and then you recycle. And then it's like almost infinite recycling. If your opponent can't recycle energy out, yeah, and I know you're thinking Malamar can, but there's ways to get around it. There's still Counter Catcher. There's still ways to slow your opponent down. There's still the Hoopas, even if they get it on there. Well, now what are they attacking with? They can't attack with their GXs. Now they have to attack with their Malamar. So there's multiple layers. This is not like a single Wailord deck where you're just, you know, you're going to take some brunts and, you know, heal and yada yada. No, you're doing multiple levels. So energy, they may energy accelerate. There's some decks that the hammers are just almost useless. But you know what, you Counter Catcher, you do what you can. You Hoopa, you Heracross, you stall. You hope Mars pulls it out, and that's it. And for the most part, against most decks, they are unprepared against this kind of deck. You know, I say that all the time. Playing a deck that's not common is a strength, because your opponent is just not accustomed to playing that, and it's jujitsu. You're using their force against them, so they want to run through their deck and head towards the cliff. Well, you just have to get out of the way and push them off the cliff once they get there. So it's a fun deck to play. It's fun to think about. You know, if mill decks and stall decks are your thing, this is a good deck here. It's a strong deck for sure. I would definitely play this in a Pokemon online tournament for sure. And maybe, you never know. If I was going to play on, head to head, this is a good deck to bring that people would not expect. And, mill decks definitely have their place. It's just a lot of people don't play them. And that's a good thing. That works for us, right? So, it's just me, you, and Takuya Yoneda, and it's us three playing mill decks. And good for us, right? More power to us. The less your opponent sees these kind of decks, the harder it is for them to counter. So, I hope you enjoyed this, and see you next time.